Hi there. Let's talk about selecting objects and recoloring artwork in Illustrator. So I'd like to share some tips and tricks for making it faster and more efficient. All right, so what I have here is a simple practice file that I like to use with students to talk about selecting and recoloring artwork. What we have is an image over here on the right and a collection of vector shapes on the left. And the goal is to figure out a quick way to recolor this vector shape. Now the vector shape, they're all colored in gray, so we don't see the separate shapes. They all look like they're the same color. And we want to adopt the color that's next to it in the sample. And the whole point of this is to just kind of demonstrate how you can use different tools in combination with one another to work through this process. So let's say I wanted to start out by using my selection tool and clicking on the outer shape, the largest shape of the object. Now it so happens that in this practice file, I already have a few preloaded swatches in my swatch palette. So if I select that object by clicking the edge using my selection tool, and then I go to the swatch palette and I click the light yellow, the tan color, that replaces the gray color of that outer object and turns it into the tan color. Another way to do that same exact process might be to use the eyedropper. So if I look for the eyedropper on my toolbar, or if I press the I key on my keyboard, that gives me the eyedropper. And what the eyedropper will allow me to do is to hover over the other artwork, the sample artwork, and click the color I want to adopt for my object. It's another way then to grab colors from an existing shape. All right, so now let's figure out the best way to color this object and how to differentiate pieces from one another. So what you've got is the Huntpec method. So let's say I click on an object and then I do what I just suggested, which is I use the eyedropper and I change the color. I could look for large areas that are easy to select. And so I might hold the shift key and click areas that I know are the same color. And then if I have that preloaded color, I could click it in the swatch palette, or I could again use the eyedropper and select it right from the image. So what you have to do with this method is you're using the selection tool, clicking an area, holding shift, clicking another. Again, looking for those areas that are shared in common, and then switching to the other swatch, or clicking the eyedropper and selecting the shape from the artwork itself. I wish there was a color it now button where I just selected this and then tapped that object and picked up all those colors and dropped it into my shape. Unfortunately, Illustrator isn't smart enough to do that kind of analysis. Maybe someday it will, but for now, we have to find our way through by selecting objects and coloring them. So again, this is kind of tedious. One thing that you can do to kind of speed up this process, which I like to do, is let's say I switch to the eyedropper tool. So I have the eyedropper tool selected. Then I hold the command key on my keyboard. That temporarily gives me the selection tool. Using the selection tool, I can then select a few objects that I know are going to share the same color. Then I let go of the command key and the shift key and I return to the eyedropper. So basically that just allows me to temporarily change to the eyedropper tool without actually having to go and hunt and find it on the toolbar. It doesn't speed up the process a lot, but it does make it a little bit more convenient so that I can go around, grab these things, and quickly hit the eyedropper and get the sample and go right back to working and coloring my shape. So kind of boring to sit here and watch me do that, but I think you get the idea. Let's see, what else could we do? Another way to do this might be to change to my outline view. If I switch to outline view, I'm gonna see the different shapes that I need to select. And this is gonna be a little bit like targeting a maze here. You know, I have to really kind of look close and see what shape I'm gonna grab. But if I do that and I hold shift and I grab those shapes that I know are similar, it might be a little easier to grab the edge in outline view without being in the way or disturbing the other colors. I can switch back to preview, and now I can go over here with my eyedropper and then click the color. Now again, that might be the long way to do it by going to outline view, but sometimes for those really tiny little spots, there may not be any other way around it. All right, so hopefully that gives you just a little bit of a taste on what you got to do to colorize vector objects. Again, it's just a matter of finding quick ways to select objects and then replace that color with another object. Now, I'm not going to force you to watch me go through the process of recoloring that artwork, but there are some other things that can be done when you're working with actual colored artwork. One of those things under the Edit menu is called Edit Colors. Now, this won't work on the sample file that I'm working on right now because everything is already colored the same color. But let's say that I had that colorized artwork and I was able then to just decide, hey, everything that's orange in the recolor artwork window, I can then pick an entirely new swatch from my existing swatches and replace one color one at a time. And then if I go back and click OK, it updates the entire graphic. So anything that was using that original swatch will now be recolored to the new swatch. Like I said, if I tried to do that with this artwork because it's unfinished, all I would be able to do is to change all the gray into one other singular color. Again, Illustrator still isn't smart enough to be able to pick out those individual shapes and know what color they should be. So you still do have your work cut out for you, but those are a couple options for how you can recolor artwork and use that in combination with your selection tools. All right, hope that helps. See you next time.